I'm Professor Sir Simon Wessely. I'm the President of the Royal College of Psychiatrists and the Professor of Psychiatry at King's College London.
Great. You said that PTSD and Shellshock are not the same thing. Can you explain the difference in the symptoms between the two diagnoses?
Yes. It's, this year is the 100th anniversary of the first use of the word shellshock, and obviously people have got very interested in recent years of the phenomena of shellshock and PTSD. And I've noticed a lot of people seem to think that these are the same things, that, you know, what we now call PTSD, they used to call shellshock. But if you look at the records and the accounts that service personnel gave during and after the First World War, you find that they really don't read the same. In particular, you know, the famous films that exist of shell-shock victims, they're very, very neurological. You see people with strange tremors, strange movement disorders, and then the accounts, you know, blindness, deafness, fits and strange turns, are really quite a quasi-neurological presentation, or probably conversion disorder, we'd say now. And the symptoms that they talk about, they certainly talk about depression, they talk about fear, they talk about nightmares, but they don't describe the particular phenomena of the flashback. You know, I'm walking down the street, I hear a car backfire, and it's like I'm back in Nam. That's not there. And of course now, in contemporary accounts, very few accounts of PTSD do not include some reference to a flashback. So things seem to have changed. The nature of the symptomatology seems to have changed over the last 100 years.
What can that teach us about how we approach and deal with veterans today?
Well, I think firstly it's to remind us how fascinating psychiatry is, why psychiatry is so much more interesting than neurology or cardiology and issues like that, because we have to take into account of that. We have to look at the change in the society that peoples are returning to, the change in healthcare provision, for example, the change in expectations of care, the change in pensions, the change in what you could expect if you become disabled, and of course the change in the nature of the war itself and the reasons for fighting the war. So all of these, you know, if we saw PTSD, as we now call it, as an entirely psychobiological process, we would miss out on many of the things that really matter to the current generation of veterans and how we treat them. If we just simply say people are just the same as they were 100 years ago, it's the same processes. I don't believe it is.